and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. But before we do that, I would like to get a pulse reading of the group. And how am I going to do that? Well, in your lovely seats, you have two different types of papers. One pink that says disagree, and the green that says agree. Will you get those two sheets out for me, please? I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I will have you agree or disagree. First question. As a child, my parents, guardians, told me I was intelligent, bright, pretty, handsome, or special. Agree or disagree? Look around, folks. Just look around. Just take a quick view, a glimpse of what we have in the audience. Okay. Second question. One of the lessons I learned from home was to respect everyone. Agree or disagree? Look around. Number 3. In high school, I was popular. Agree or disagree? Look around. Okay, are you looking around? Okay, to the left, to the right? Okay. My fourth question. In my life, I have had to overcome some physical, social, emotional, and intellectual challenges. Agree or disagree? Look around. 5, I like who I am and would not trade places with anyone today. Agree or disagree? Look around. Okay. Now, I left out one important part. I should have said, I want you to be truthful. But I hope, being who you are, that you were truthful. As we look through these questions, not everybody have the same advantages. Maybe they didn't have parents to tell them that they were pretty. In our last session, we had somebody to say, one of our speaker, he asked the group, were you told you were pretty? Yes, no? Mm-hmm. Were you pretty? Okay. How about handsome? Were you told that you were handsome? All right. Special. Were you told that you were special? Special over here? Okay. Not everybody had someone rooting for them. Physical challenges, maybe you had an opportunity, there's something you didn't like about yourself, so you were able to change it later on. Or socially. I want you to think about some of those things. And the last question, I would not trade places with anybody. Big steps. I know as I've matured, maybe younger, I probably would have traded a few places. But now, maybe I'm comfortable. Maybe it takes maturity. However, whatever, we're going to listen to these people's stories. And I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, and we'll see if these stories resonate with you.
Right. Thank you, and thank you for coming, everyone. Now we're going to get to the meat and potatoes, the important part, the reason why you're here. Our 5 wonderful panelists, if you'll welcome them. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves one at a time and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, I'm Kayla Parker. I'm a senior here at UT, 5th year, but let's talk about it. But I graduated in December. I'm a sociology major, entrepreneurial studies minor, and a little bit about myself. I'm the president of a sexual assault survivor support group on campus. I am an activist out of necessity. I've been through a lot of experiences where I've seen up close like injustices, and so being a person who's not very quiet, I always try to fight against those. So I'm protesting a lot, especially with this administration. You can catch me in front of the torchbearer anytime some crazy-ish goes down by myself with like some posters that say anything. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Rodriguez. I am a senior major in kinesiology from Clarksville, Tennessee. I am part of an organization called Me for UT, and we help to recruit minorities for the University of Tennessee.
And I'm Ronnie Little Jr. I'm a fifth-year senior as well, majoring in marketing with a collateral in international business from Liberty, South Carolina. Like Michelle, I'm also a part of Me for UT. I am also a student assistant in the Dean of Students office, as well as the president of the Kappa Chi chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated.
Hi, my name is Cruz Smith. I'm a cinema studies major here. I am a senior, and I mostly screenwrite and I make movies.
Hi everybody, I'm Justin. I'm a journalism electronic media senior in the College of Communications. I am originally from northern Japan, and I'm also a military brat. My father was in the Air Force and served for 28 proud years. And I'm currently serving as one of the co-presidents for Diversity Student Leader Society here at the college.
Our first question today, do the lessons from home, spoken or unspoken, shape who you are today? And B, do the lessons influence acceptance of yourself and acceptance of others? You don't all have to answer, but we'll start with Justin if you'd like to.
Sure. In my household, if I may, it was very much split between two cultures. My mother's Japanese, my father is American. So you can see how one is a more respectfully conservative culture, and then my father coming from East Tennessee, as well as, it was pretty conservative, but on the angle of more like being Americanized. And so anyway, my mother was very outspoken with how she wanted to raise my brother and I. But yeah, I think a lot of Japanese culture and American culture both, especially when you look towards the angles of how you want your child to be successful, how you want them to act in front of adults, how you want them to behave in front of other people. All of those kind of intersected throughout my life, and all of it was outspoken in our household, and it made me who I am. And then I look at kind of my parents now, and I always thank them for being strict, but also giving me a lot of freedom as I was growing up. So I've always told my parents I've lived a 50-50 life almost, but it's almost like a 100%. So like I've had a 200% type lifestyle from the American and Japanese perspective, so it's helped me.
Yeah, I mean, having a disability, my parents always taught me not to be a victim. They were probably honest with me and saying it's probably going to take you longer than most people to do things because I had a stroke when I was a baby. And they basically said it's going to take you longer to do things, but you can do everything that you want to do. And yeah, it's basically like I've had to put in the extra work, but they've taught me not to be a victim and to go for what you want in life.
Very similar in my household. Like my parents, they set me up for any opportunity I wanted to do. So if I wanted to play basketball, I could. If I wanted piano lessons, I could get those. If I wanted to sing, I could do that as well. So pretty much whatever I wanted to do. They always taught me to dream big, and they would make sure they never tried to kill my dreams, but also like they're always there to make sure they could like enhance and help push me towards my dreams. So for me, going to college, it wasn't really a choice of am I going to college or not. It was, oh, you're going. It's just which college do you want to go to type thing. But they raised me in a way that I wanted to go to college by the time I got to high school. They really taught me to respect everyone. And part of that, my parents, our family, we like to keep a lot of things private, which I feel like a question, I'll get into that sooner or later. So they also teach me to keep things very private and kind of in the public eye, we need to be seen a certain way, and then behind closed doors, happening in your house, that stays in your house. You do not discuss it, because in public eye, you have to be perfect, quote unquote. Just look at how I was raised.
Similar to this story, I was a military brat, so I was always raised in like a diverse community, but in my house, it was Hispanic, and then when I went to school, it was American. So I kind of had 50-50, and living with like a diverse cultures and stuff, I was always taught to be respectful to everybody and just keep an open mind to what everybody's cultures is. So.
Do you want me to answer? Okay. So my parents, they've always told me that before I was ever born that they valued me and the impact that they believed that I could make in the world. They didn't know if they wanted to have children because the world was so messed up, and they wanted to protect the children that they hadn't had yet. But the reason that they chose to is because they thought that maybe one of their children could make a difference and change the world. And so they've told me that since I was young. And so I always felt as though my voice was valued and that it was important and that I had the potential to change the world with like just my voice. And so These days I write a lot. It's really impacted me because I don't stay silent about much. And yeah.
Another question. Do you feel comfortable in your skin, or don't you feel comfortable in your skin? And explain why.
Okay. Yeah, I went to a predominantly white school. I was the only black student in my grade until 7th grade. And then there were 4 by the time I graduated. And so I had like an identity crisis phase where I honestly wanted to be white. Like my hair didn't move the way that white people's hair moved. I would like try to make my hair do that. It just like never did it, you know, because it wasn't going to. And so there's a lot of times when I just didn't want to be who I was. And growing up, I love being black. I'm super black now. Like, like I can't be quiet about it. Specifically because I've come to college and I've seen that like no matter where you come from, like as a black person, you're always black. You know, a lot of people I've heard say like LeBron James, if he feels oppressed, how can he be oppressed? He's got millions of dollars, but he's still a black man, and that didn't stop anybody from like vandalizing and writing the N-word on the side of his house, and they still experience racism. And so that's something that like I've noticed, and again, can't stay quiet about it. So yeah.
I definitely feel comfortable in my own skin just because my school was majority minorities. And so this was actually, coming to UT was my first experience where I kind of felt like I didn't belong. But you quickly learn to realize who you can relate to, and you kind of go out of it when people start to accept you. And so I still feel comfortable in my own skin, but it's just a different environment now.
Michelle, can you just kind of expound upon that? What, is it something that happened in the classroom or something like that?
It's just, not that something happened in the classroom, it's just, I feel like in Knoxville, it's just more distinct on, like, obviously it's majority whites, but where I come from, it's not like that at all. So it was just like a big, like, whoa, but you kind of get used to it. Yeah.
And audience, think of questions, we'll be coming to you.
I would say I'm very much so comfortable in my own skin. I haven't always been this way. It's been like a learning process, something I've had to grow into in a sense and like build my confidence, but now you can't tell me anything. Like I'm very comfortable being me.
I guess, like, I don't know, like, there's a Louis C.K. joke where he says, I'm uncomfortable most of the time, and I think I am, but it's nothing to do with me having a stroke, I'm just an uncomfortable person. Like, yeah, if I'm never completely comfortable outside my house, but it's nothing to do with the disability, it's just I'm uncomfortable.
I am comfortable, or I am as comfortable as I can be being a Japanese American in America. I moved here in 2013 and that was hard. My mom's Japanese, she's a full Japanese nationality, green card holder. So to say that transitioning to America was easy is a lie, but I think 4 years later I'm very proud to say that being Japanese American is probably the proudest part of my life, in addition to the fact that I was a male cheerleader on 2 teams, one in Japan, one in America, being the only male cheerleader, and that's very difficult. So beyond my race, I've had to be comfortable with being the only guy on a cheerleading team on 2 different spectrums, or the only boy on a group project even. It goes to the classroom as well, but very comfortable, very comfortable.
Is there one culture or the other that you identify with more?
Oh gosh, I honestly think I give myself a little too much leeway. So when I'm in Japan, I feel very proud to be an American because my father served in the military, and Japanese people don't understand that lifestyle as much. In America, I'm very proud to be Japanese because, again, it's the vice versa, right? So right now, I'm very proud to be Japanese American. In America, I'm very proud to be American Japanese. So again, going back to my point about my parents didn't raise me, you're 50% Japanese, you're 50% American. You're 100% of both of those, and regardless of where you are, you should be proud of that. But yeah.
Okay, you alluded to comfortable, uncomfortable. I'm going to take the next question. What challenges, and some of you kind of alluded to, have you had in life?
Okay.
Okay. You don't have to go in order.
Okay. So, yeah, I've experienced a lot just with, I was an Uber driver for a second.
She's a woman of many talents.
Yeah, and I had to stop just because it was incredibly racist at times. People asking, you know, are you a, what did they say? Are you a first generation college student? Assuming that like I'm the first person in my college to ever graduate. My dad graduated from Yale Medical School. And so it's just like things like that and just really terrible things were said. But like
How terrible? Can you share?
Oh, I mean, yeah, somebody said we're going out to try to find some white girls. I'm being really like, not saying exactly what they said. But yeah, they were like, but we'll maybe take a caramel colored girl, but not dark skin, that reminds us of dirt. And that was,
These things were said to you?
oh yeah. And so that was just like my week and a half experience with Uber. But like I said, I don't like to be quiet about things that that happened to me in my experiences. And I've even had an experience like at UT before where I had a professor issue out a quiz, and the quiz question was historical research on African American families shows what, and it was multiple choice, and C was that black family bonds were destroyed by the abuses of slave owners, as slave owners regularly sold family members to other owners, and then D was that most slave families were headed by two parents. And I put C, and she said the correct answer was D. And I knew that that was incorrect, so I emailed her and I brought my citations. I provided, you know, things from the textbook that said that her point was inaccurate, and she had a fit about it. She refused to give me the 4 points. We had an argument in the hallway, and she said, if you think you know this so well, why don't you teach it? And I was like, all right, when? Let's do it. So I did, and I went and presented in front of the class. I recorded it actually on Facebook Live. And, you know, shortly after that, we found her Facebook, and she was saying, oh, once the semester's over, I'm releasing this girl's information so that you guys can have her. If I see her, I'm going to fight her. All of this stuff. Found her on LinkedIn. I'm reaching out to her contacts, and I'm going to destroy her professional career. Just crazy stuff. And I just screenshots all day, receipts, and sent it to the school. And she was fired mid-semester because of it. And actually hasn't stopped. She is in the news today. She just got arrested for assaulting me at the beginning of the month when she saw me at the grocery store. And so a lot of things happen when you choose to use your voice and speak out when things are wrong. And knowing all the things that happen afterwards because of it, I still think that, I know that I would have still done the same thing because my history is being portrayed inaccurately in class, and it doesn't deserve that.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Kayla. Someone else, Ronnie, you wanna?
Yeah, repeat the question again.
What
I got so
challenges?
caught up.
Okay, what challenges have? Let me see. I'm kind of caught up into her conversation. 5. Okay, what challenges have you had?
Oh, several. Okay, so I'm from South Carolina, a very, very small town in South. I grew up on a farm, surprisingly. A very small town in South Carolina. So just being a male in South Carolina, challenge number 1. Black male, challenge number 2, a gay black male in South Carolina. Boom, all odds against me instantly. So yeah, I've had quite a few challenges, mostly growing up. Not so much since I've been in college, not too many. But it's a very interesting life living in South Carolina under all those constraints.
Do you think Knoxville is a little bit more open compared to your hometown?
Knoxville itself, no. The people here at UT Knox, yes. I feel like the college students are very different than the local Knoxville people. I just feel like people in college in general, you're a lot more accepting of things because like you're going to school with people who are going to be a lot different than you versus people who maybe grow up in that town. They might, they don't really like change and like outsiders that much. So I'd have to say the students, yes. Knoxville, no.
Thank you for sharing. Again, you all don't have to answer, but you just jump right in.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, no, go ahead if you want to.
Having a disability, I think, struggles mostly from dealing with failure, dealing with basically you got to put a little bit more effort into it. I find that I have to make up for some of the stuff with more self-discipline. It's it can get tough sometimes. High school was tough. Having your learning disability on register and your teacher's not listening when I went to a private school, so when your parents are paying for the school and the guy, like your teacher can't even like follow up what they're supposed to do legally, it gets a little annoying. Physically, I wasn't much of an athlete. I'm just kind of like, yeah, probably won't be, but I found kind of my niche. I like doing what I do. I like writing screenplays, and I think if anything, if you can take away from my experience is life kicks us all down to different extents, to different degrees, and even though life is tough, your job is to get back up and get back on the horse. So.
Questions from the audience? No questions? Okay. Yes.
For Mr. Crawford, but maybe there are aspects of it that others would like to respond to. What conflicts were there between your Japanese parentage and your American parentage?
Yeah. The first two I can immediately think of, not even public, but display of affection. They're on opposite ends of the spectrum from Japan to America. And so my parents actually recently separated, which is why we ended up in America. But that's not to say that there wasn't other areas in which they've kind of found a lot of differences. But they were married 28 years, for example, but having gone between Japan and the United States and Guam and Korea with our Japanese American family, I think the two biggest things I found was that my mother was not touchy-feely, but my dad was, right? He was the typical, I don't want to say typical actually, so my dad was he was a pilot in the Air Force and a crew chief, and when he comes home he wants to kiss his wife and etc. And my mom wasn't that. She was the standard Japanese mom that took care of the children only and would rather feed my brother and I, spoon feed us, than to look at him and give him a kiss on the cheek. So that was the biggest thing. The second thing was culturally, when you're looking at going out in public with the four of us, my mom would even get stares because she was with a white man. And then we would get stares because we were the product of the two. So neither of us look Japanese or American, we look mixed. And then my father looks white and my mom honestly looks Korean or Filipino. And so going out in public was always really hard in America and in Japan. To this day, we were in Nashville 2 days ago, my mom and I. We personally we embrace it, right? My mom's Japanese, I'm her son, and we look very different, but that starts conversations. But those would be the two biggest things that I found kind of challenging or kind of hardships.
Other questions? Okay.
Oh, well, I'll ask. So we all live in this virtual world now, social media. And so has that affected how comfortable or changed how comfortable you feel in your skin once you start getting into social media and getting exposed to ideas about the type of person that you happen to be?
I feel like since social media, a lot of people realize that we're all very similar. For instance, something happens on Twitter, or everybody just goes to it. Oh, I'm not the only one, or this and that, and how some cultures were raised. You realize, oh, I was kind of raised the same way too. But again, with that, there's also like negative aspects where like cultural appropriation comes in. And it's like, oh, that's part of my culture, but you look down upon it, and now you're using it and it's praised because you're a different color. So it kind of has like its negative sides and its positive sides, in my opinion.
I'll say personally speaking, social media has not changed my comfort level, but it has impacted, I guess, my family's comfort level. For example, Facebook, I don't put anything risque on Facebook. Facebook is just for pictures and the albums, and it's all like G-rated, I promise. But I posted like a picture of me. I went to Cancun this past spring break, and it was just me at the beach. That's all it was. But one of my cousins apparently saw it and they had they made like a big deal about it to all my family about me being on the beach in this picture, like he's out there just expressing his gayness and and I'm like, literally, it's me at the beach, literally it's swimming, like it was nothing in that picture. I'm like, so I'm really confused. So that started like a grand hoopla, and then everyone knows I fill in my eyebrows. That's what I do every day. So my mother apparently saw some pictures. She was like, did you do something to your eyebrows? I'm like, I mean, yeah, I've done it for the past like 2 years now. You haven't noticed? She was like, well, can you lay off on that a little bit? Because people are starting to say some things. I'm like, no.
Is she saying that
I
that's
won't.
too?
It's too much.
much,
It's too
okay.
gay. It's too much for her.
Okay.
I'm just like, okay, she is jealous. I'm kidding.
They were
Like,
looking pretty nice though.
oh, well, thank you. I'm like, no, I won't. So it's more so, it's impacted my family's comfort level, but it hasn't done a thing to me.
Anyone else? What strategies? Okay, there's a question back. Okay, where? Okay, again? Okay, thank you.
There are students in the room who are, at this point, not so comfortable in their own skins. Can you give them advice from your experience, some tips about getting closer to that comfort level?
That's my next question, but okay. Great question.
I was gonna say obviously. I would say that you have to first find out who you are, and that's your own personal journey. I couldn't tell anybody like how to figure out who you are, but when you do that, you kind of find the ways that you feel comfortable expressing exactly who you're finding. And so for me, writing was my outlet, and I didn't realize that I had like a lot of things to write about and that people would care about the things that I write about. So this is kind of with the last question too. I started writing more and posting it on Medium, which is a platform for blogging, and then sharing it through my social media, and was realizing that a lot of people were connecting with what I was saying. And then that also felt empowering, that I was empowering other people because they had been through similar experiences. So my suggestion would be to focus on finding out who you are and then finding the ways that you want to express that and what your strengths are.
If I could add to that, it kind of goes back to the social media thing and how you can find a lot of people that are going either after the same end goal as you, or they support you for what you're doing, or they just love what you're doing, for example. If I may, I think the first thing I would say is that, again, reiterating, you have to find out what you want to do with your life. I had this conversation with Mom on the way to Knoxville yesterday, and a lot of times life is a game, right? I'm going to get real with you guys, because at the end of the day, we're all living to survive in this world. We could be in Knoxville, I've been in Japan, Korea, and Guam, and I've noticed it with people all over the world. And the bottom line is that we're just trying to live. You have friends, you have family, you have acquaintances and workplace people, and you're gonna go home at night by yourself. What makes you happy? So my example for that is that you guys may have seen that I run the Snapchat story sometimes, or I'm always running around with a mic in my hand, or I just wanted to get into that reporting field or in media in general. That's always been my passion. So I spent 3.5 years doing it. If that means I have to constantly hold a high standard to myself, meaning all my social media is matched and clean and professional, and then if I'm walking on campus, I have to maintain all of that. If that's what I have to go through in order to reach my end goal, which is to be on television, that's what I'm gonna do. And so again, she was saying that's my outlet. So when people are asking, how are you doing this? How did you end up on Snapchat? How do you do this and that? That's where I'm comfortable. And I tell people that all the time. People say, I've seen you do this, I've seen you do that. I give them a hug and I say, but what about you? Let's talk about what you want to do. Because again, it goes back to what are you passionate about, and then finding people in that zone of yours, and then you're going to end up happy and more comfortable. I think comfort comes with happiness. That's what I would say.
But I think it all starts with loving yourself. Like if you don't love who you are and everything about you, you can't expect to be comfortable living as yourself, because you don't even love yourself. So it all goes back to really just starting to love who you are, and then it's easier from there.
What are some ways to get to that point? We can talk about it, and express it, but are there some tools from your vantage point that can help others in the audience?
For me, it was just reading about my history and learning about a lot that my ancestors went through, and I'm graduating in December and I didn't need any more credits, Lord knows that, but I took this graduate level global racism course that a professor invited me to sit in, and I've just been reading, because they really do assign like a book a week in graduate school, so it has effectively turned me off from that. But I'm just learning so much, and that's really helping, like knowing my history, because it's not taught a lot in schools. It's glossed over. We get that page or two about MLK and Rosa Parks, and then it's on to the next white guy. So learning about my history has really been the key for me.
Talking. Just talk. Have uncomfortable conversations. Talk to your friends, talk to classmates. If talking isn't your thing, if reading is, then find ways to better educate yourself. That's why we're in college. But it was like my freshman year, I was like, oh my God, I have to study and I have to take tests, but I found that all my better experiences to love myself have come from people.
I would completely agree with that. I think one of the things is, I really love film and movie making, and one of the things I have to, I feel like that's my niche a little bit, so I study it. I go beyond more of my classwork to try to find out really, and I think that's really what I'm comfortable with doing. I think, and again, like you said, talking more and talking to people and learning about more perspectives.
Well, we've touched on strategy, et cetera. Yes, another question? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was trying to think back in my own life, at what point did I feel comfortable in my skin? And I keep going in and out of that, so maybe that's true of you guys. Can you think back to when you finally felt more comfortable than not in your own skin? At what age? And was there a particular moment, a particular event, a particular person that made you feel that way?
Great question.
When I got to college, that's when it changed for me, and I guess the moment for me was when Trayvon Martin was killed, and I saw that on the news. And I was at Eckerd College in Florida, and it's mainly all white as well. I think there are 30 black students there, and 28 of them were athletes, but that's neither here nor there. And I remember just kind of stepping out and feeling kind of like I was the only one upset about it. Everybody was just walking, laughing, going around, and I was just looking around, and it's like I'm the only person who cares about any of this. And I found comfort in my community in that moment, and my whole community was grieving together about that. And so that's where I started feeling more comfortable about who I was, who's around me, who my family is.
This is tough. I feel like mine has kind of been, like there's been different moments, like my comfortable level has like changed. So I guess the first instance of when I started to become comfortable was probably my sophomore year of college. I've never hidden the fact that I'm gay, but it's more so like, we don't talk about it, it is what it is. Like you don't ask, I'm not telling, keep it moving. When I finally told, like I had this group of like 4 best friends, I finally told them and like they didn't care, I'm like, oh, okay. And then I noticed like as more and more people found out like around campus, like they didn't care, I'm like, oh, well, if y'all don't care, why do I care? And then so that was like the first moment. And then the second most, I guess, prevalent moment would be after I joined my fraternity. Something happened, and I remember I was trying to tell like some of my fraternity brothers, like I have something to tell y'all, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, yes, I'm gay. And they're like, oh, we know. I'm like, y'all knew? They're like, yeah, we knew the whole time. I'm like, y'all didn't say anything? They're like, no, like we don't care. Like we don't really care. Da-da-da-da. And something happened, and like they actually defended me. I'm like, oh, if y'all don't care, then like I really don't care who knows now. Because I think there's like this stigma about if you're in a fraternity, like just gays are not allowed, da-da-da-da. But I found like that's absolutely not true. And so I'm like, if they accept me and they're my brothers, I'm like, I don't really care if anybody else does or not. Like I'm good now. So that was just this past summer, so summer of 16.
Do you feel that way about your family members?
Which way exactly? Like if I don't care?
No. That, accepting, have they, majority of them accepted who you are?
Oh,
Ronnie Little?
No,
Okay.
they probably won't.
Okay.
But I don't know, like I come from a very, very strong religious family. I'm still very religious myself. That's an eternal struggle every single day, sexuality versus religion. But yeah, I really doubt my entire family will ever clearly accept it. It's more so one of those things like we just don't discuss it and we just keep on moving like it. Just don't discuss it. Yeah, it's a secret type thing.
Okay. Any other comments? Look, repeat the question.
Time in my life.
Okay,
yes.
time in your life.
God, most recently, senior year, towards the end of this past summer, I've been very comfortable with being the spunky Justin that doesn't shut up and you can take it or leave it. Because I was, especially being in college, we are all kind of trying to make it into the professional field, and I've always thought that I had to impress somebody. That's hard. But this summer when I went to a Starbucks for 34 minutes and my now boss at Fox loved me for who I was because we had a conversation and then hired me, I found kind of what I'm wanting in this field. So specifically in journalism, I think I've always thought that because you're already in the field and you're much older than me, I have to be this Justin, right? I have to be the Justin that always articulates well and just, I don't even know if I have a personality anymore. But the Justin who was a cheerleader for 4 years, I can't not give that up. I have to keep that part of myself. And to some people, they're like, God, you talk so much, you always got so much energy. The more and more I act the way I'm supposed to, the comfortable Justin, the more I find that I'm happy and people accept it and I'm fun. Well, I think I'm fun. But it has gotten me a job. It has gotten me a job. So what's the,
And that kind of leads me to the next question. How has that visible and invisible diversity impacted you in your schoolwork and your job and your future job? I mean, but right now, from your perspective. Anybody? You just said that.
Yeah,
you felt great
to
about
finish my long-winded answers as always. But wow, college and workplace are very different. But when you're an upperclassman in college, you then try to bridge the gap, right? You then try to find a first job, and you then try to get ready for it. So it's hard to drop the fun college you and head towards the business tie and suit person, right? But to answer your question, every single interview I have ever sat in, I will never refrain from telling somebody that I'm Japanese American. My father served for our country. I understand what it's like to live in this country and that country, and people always want to follow up with questions. And then it doesn't turn into an interview anymore. It's almost like a conversation because that's what they are. I always tell, I'm in the Career Development Center now, and I tell people it's a conversation. It's not going to be, you know, yes, you want to give somebody the company, but you're already qualified enough to get into the face-to-face conversation. Tell them about you and how you're going to bring diversity and a more better understanding of what that looks like in the workplace. Yeah, plug for DSLS, that's exactly what we do for Diversity Student Leaders Society. That's what we focus on. How are you as a diverse person, white, black, in between, from everywhere, going to bring that into the workplace? But yeah, it's been really useful.
anyone else, and how has visible and invisible diversity impacted you in your workplace, or your schoolwork, or your classroom, or somewhere?
Well, okay, so I don't really know what I want to do with my life, but
No one does.
yeah. But I wouldn't say, I feel like I'm kind of different because how I grew up is kind of still relevant to how I'm still growing up. So I kind of want to, I'm interested in going to the Air Force. So with that, obviously, you have to know like different culture. You have to be comfortable with serving different people and communicating with different people. But I already do that because that's how I was raised. So that's why I don't really have a lot to say because I'm just carrying that on from how I was raised. So.
I think that basically what I had to do was just figure out, like, okay, what is your skill set? What are you good at? What are you not good at? And basically try to go for jobs that focus on basically aspects that I'm good at. I've been on job sets, working locations, which is pretty much just like make sure the set doesn't burn down and pick up the trash. But you know, doing that, there was one job in particular where they undersold the job to me, and I was ill prepared to do the job, and it's a lot of physical labor, which was tough for me. That being said, and that job didn't go so well. That being said, I was on another job that was basically demanded of me just basically going out, meeting people, getting basically just getting contracts, basically talking to people, and I'm much better at that because I like communicating with people and I like talking with them. So it's really just trying to figure out what you're good at, and then I know it's a cliche, you'll never work a day in your life if you find out what you're good at, but it actually is true.
So,
I was going to jump in.
oh,
I was just going to ask the audience, and this is maybe a little tougher, but as well as panelists, whoever wants to respond, but we've all been in situations where we aren't comfortable. You find them every day, whether they're social settings, whether it's the peer pressure that you're dealing with. I just wondered if anybody would be willing to share, from the audience, their story that they thought might be relevant to this, that maybe was a little different take than what we've heard so far from panels. If anybody is to add to the richness of the conversation.
Was it over here that you had your hand up? No?
I was missing my hair.
Oh, you're fixing her hair. Okay, tweaking her hair over there. Ladies and gentlemen, we have your peers here. And this is an opportunity to ask questions you've always wanted to ask, but didn't have the opportunity. They've shared their stories, they're sharing. And the dean has just asked a good one. You've never been in an uncomfortable situation?
Lisa's going to go ahead.
Okay, Lisa, go ahead.
I have to get up here in front of all of you and have everybody staring at me right now. And I know I don't look normal because I'm 300 pounds. And I know what people think about people who weigh 300 pounds. They think they're lazy, they think they're dirty. And I had a long time before I felt comfortable in my skin. And my moment that you asked about was when I almost died. And then,
What happened? Can we say, can we?
oh, I had a tumor. It's a thing. Anyways, so that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, it was, I'm still kicking. I may not kick as high as you guys, but I'll sit next to you in class and you're a little skinny thing and I'm a 300-pound person and I'm not going to be afraid of you staring at me. So that's, I think, answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Lisa. Yes. Okay.
I want to respond to what you said. So I'm Muslim, obviously you can tell, and I think that I'm still not comfortable in my own skin. I think I'm getting there, but I guess I just always had that feeling whenever I walked into a room that I know people could see that I was different, like you said, and like I just guess I always grew up thinking that people were judging me or that maybe they just didn't like me or something, and I don't know, it's just because like people don't express whether they do or don't like me, I guess. But I guess I'm still getting there, like trying to feel comfortable in my own skin. I guess it's just like hard because people can tell I'm different right away. That was just something.
Oh, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you. Other people in the audience with a story or something, or time, over here, yes. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm from Jersey, so Jersey's pretty liberal. Like we're very diverse.
Can you speak up just a little bit because of you? Okay.
Yeah, that's for the web, not the,
This?
yeah.
Oh gosh.
You're online.
Okay, so where I come from, like it's a very diverse population. Like being Spanish, being Black, being Cuban, whatever. Like that's nothing. Like you're just seen as a human being almost. And I feel like coming down here was a little different because I am Spanish, but I don't look it. And when somebody tells me, "Oh, you're Spanish," it's like, am I supposed to look a certain way? Am I supposed to act a certain way, speak a certain way? Does it shock you that I could speak another language? And for me, it was like the first time in my whole life where I almost felt like a minority in my entire life. And I don't know what that's like, honestly. And down here, I didn't think it was like that, honestly. I always felt like the U.S. was welcoming. And
So what stories, when you go back home, when you return home, what stories do you share with your friends and family about
About here?
About University of Tennessee?
I mean, the campus is beautiful. Like, people here are lovely.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No. People here are lovely, like, very welcoming on UT, but I think that the university as a whole has worked so hard to get that, you know what I mean, to create a welcoming environment where the rest of it, like the things around it aren't so much like that. But when I go home, I always tell people how nice Southerners are and like how welcoming it is. But honestly, for the first time in my life, I actually felt like a minority, and it was when I moved down here.
Was that from UT or was that from the community?
That was just from the community itself, to be honest. Yeah.
That's so funny because I like had that in reverse. Like I'm from like a super white, like upper neighborhood, like north of Dallas. And I went to school at Rutgers for my undergraduate, which is in New Jersey. And that was like the first experience of diversity that I like really ever had. So like I played soccer there, and there were like 4 girls on my team that were gay, and like I had never met someone who was gay before. Like that's probably sounds like really bizarre, but like I was like, oh, this isn't like something that's like in the movies. Like this is a real person, yeah. But that was like kind of eye-opening.
Thank you for sharing. Any others? Yes, right back here.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting experience for me, coming from a really small private Christian school and then being an athlete here at the university, and being in just like a huge world, but also just kind of from a religious standpoint, you come in and you have these kind of, I guess, Christian values, but as an athlete, you're so often encouraged to kind of throw those away, and if you don't go out with the team on a weekend, then you're kind of ridiculed by the team at practice, but then if you do, then you're not going to have a good practice, and then the coaches are going to get mad at you, so there's so often pressure coming from both directions, and it's hard to not compromise your values when everyone around you is telling you the way you're supposed to live and the mold you're supposed to fit in. But especially as an athlete, when you're so highly scrutinized, not only by your peers, but by media and by fans and by kind of the community of your sport, there's just so much scrutiny that it's hard to not kind of fold under that pressure.
How have you personally, as an athlete, broken down some of those barriers and stayed true to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's an ongoing battle, and I feel like it's more important to know who you are and to stay true to those values and stay true to your upbringing than to give into that pressure, and just being comfortable with kind of not being accepted sometimes. I think you have to know that that's going to happen, and once you can accept that, you can grow and start to be okay, and it doesn't really bother you anymore.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, over here.
So again, just to kind of go on the opposite, so I'm a non-religious person, grew up in the South, so I was raised by Northerners, it's not as big of a deal there, and I went to public school, so I kind of had the opposite experience where religion was just never a thing in my household. It wasn't a negative thing, it just wasn't something we ever did. And I had kids when I was like in elementary school telling me like, you're gonna go to hell, like what's wrong with you, and kind of shaming me for it, and I had no idea what was going on. And I think that the impact was that it kind of has made me resentful towards Christianity specifically, and I guess it's still something I kind of deal with just because I don't really experience it anymore, but that was definitely something all through my childhood.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and this is your story. Thank you for sharing that story. Yes.
Yeah, kind of on the same vein, like had a lot of, I feel like one thing that made me strong in myself growing up was being from like a liberal family. Like I'm from Upper East Tennessee, and I have a super specific memory in middle school of we were like lined up for the bus, and a boy in my class, it was during the, I guess it would have been like the Obama-McCain election, and a boy in my class like went down the line to everybody and was like, who are your parents voting for? And I was the only one that said Obama, and that was the wrong answer. And yeah, and that kind of stuff like happened all the time. Like my older sister got made fun of by a teacher for like her family being Democratic when she was like 11. But like I'm grateful for those experiences because partially as an adult they make for funny stories because they're really weird. And it just like it made me strong in my convictions because like I kind of had to be in my school growing up. So it's like a really small area of diversity, but it definitely contributed to who I am today.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, here, another story.
It's kind of an opposite completely. Like, I've only felt uncomfortable recently with like what I do and what I say and like the color of my skin. Like, and I know that sounds really weird, but I know there's a lot of racial tension and all, and I've never been a racist person. I know, like, I grew up in a military family, so I've been around. I've lived in Germany, I lived in South Carolina at a predominantly black school, and all of my friends were black, and then I moved to Northern Virginia, where, like, that's a huge melting pot because it's in the DC area, so I had friends from all different types of races. So I never saw, like, and plus my family had always told me that being different was good. You know, that's being an individual, and there's no one like you, so you shouldn't try and make anyone like you or you like anyone else. So seeing all these problems, it makes me sad because we should be embracing each other's differences rather than like trying to shun them. And we're all people, like depending on our color of our skin and our gender, that doesn't really matter because who we are isn't our skin, our sexuality, it's just a factor of us. But our personality, the things we like, the people we talk to, that's what makes us. And like, I guess that's been my struggle lately is because that's the way I see it, and I've been afraid that people might see it otherwise, I guess.
Well, continue doing what you're doing, saying you got a great ending for me. So how do we embrace one another? How do we go about really respecting one another? What are some tools or things that we can do? We talked about one sexuality, we talked about religion, we've talked about size, we talked about political type of viewpoints being different. So how do we go about accepting one another and really, and just not talking about it? What are some things, steps that we can take as a group? Earlier it was mentioned, read. Learn, put yourself in other situations, I heard, going on. And today was also shared earlier. You guys are, some of you are in the media, right? How many are in journalism? Raise your hand. How many are gonna get the story if you don't feel comfortable going out into that community, that neighborhood, and or you have ideas already in your head about those people that you're going to interview that's negative? How are you going to get the true story? You guys are looking at me. What are we going to do? What are some tools? I love how you've been embracing blah, blah, blah. Keep doing that.
I'm trying.
Okay, and sometimes I feel like you will have some ouch moments. But what can you do? What can you do? What can you all do? Yes.
Well, Ms. Worth, I think since this is being comfortable in your own skin, there's a line that I give a lot of the students before they're graduating, because I've been to the 4 graduations now, and it's, there are gonna be plenty of people out there putting you down and tearing you down and telling you what you've done wrong. Don't help them out by giving them free labor and doing it yourself. They don't need your help doing that. They'll do it on their own. You build yourself up, and don't talk negative about yourself. If you find yourself looking in the mirror and saying something negative, stop yourself and say, I'm not going to take that from you.
Okay. I'm a wonderful mistake-making human being, and I like me.
I like who I am.
I like who I am. Other questions or tools or ways to combat the negativity that's going around? We're living in interesting times. Yes. And okay, here.
Yeah.
Shall we go? Okay.
The biggest thing is just to follow the golden rule that you learned in elementary school and treat people the way that you want to be treated. And unless you want to be treated like scum of the earth, you should always be really nice to everyone, and that should solve a lot of the world's problems.
Thank you.
Respect.
Did you have a question right there? You want to speak? Yes.
I was going to say, kind of along the lines of you were asking how we can help, I guess, take care of everyone. Along the lines of what Kayla was saying earlier, is to not be quiet. We all have a hard time fitting in our own skin sometimes, and so we know that about each other. And if you see someone that maybe doesn't look like they're comfortable in their own skin, or someone is putting them down, like, speak up, help everyone feel comfortable and welcome. wherever they are.
Thank you. You guys have said so much, and I just hope that there are some tools that we can all pick up. But before we let this distinguished panel lead today, what are some words of wisdom that you would like to leave for our distinguished group of your peers and our professors here today? From your own story.
I was just, I mean, this is so cliche, but I was just always told, you know, stay true to yourself. The right people will come into your life eventually. And if you stay true to yourself, you're going to attract the individuals that need to be in your life. So,
Yeah. I have like two personal sayings. That was the one, say true to yourself. And the other one is live your best life. You only have one life to live, so do whatever makes you happy.
Figure out what you're good at, figure out what you enjoy, and then try to find the best pathway to achieve your goal.
We're gonna keep it cliche. Meet people halfway. That's very important. What I mean by that is, if somebody has something that you don't agree with, try to agree with them. If that's two things that they said that you like, if that's the way they look, if that's their necklace, meet them halfway, because that goes a very long way in conversation, in interaction, in everything. Meet people halfway. And the second thing I would say is, wake up every day and just be proud of yourself for what you did the day before, and just not pretend, obviously not, but live your day as if it's almost going to be your last, so that you bust your, so that you bust your butt to meet people halfway and live your best life, the MK said.
Okay, Lisa, do you want to say anything before we conclude today?
I think thank you for coming, everyone, is what we should say. And thank you to our panel.
Justin Crawford, Cruz Smith, Ronnie Little, Michelle Rodriguez, and Kayla Parker. She had to go, but tomorrow night we have an open forum, emotional diversity, emotional intelligence in the classroom. If you want to learn or hear a little bit more of her voice, she'll be here. At 5 o'clock today, we have our chancellor who will be coming, and she will be speaking at 5 o'clock in our CCI Patrick Auditorium. And ladies and gentlemen, you each have a program. I can go on and on. We have many opportunities. Our accommodating activity is this Thursday, 5 to 7, where we build community. You get to talk to your professors and eat hamburgers, hot dogs, veggie burgers, vegetarian beans and all. We've got a variety of different things. We also have these evaluations to help us out. I want to thank the professors for bringing their class, and I want to thank you for opening up and giving us the opportunity to share and listen to their stories. So thank you very much.